Hi everyone, for this video for week 2 of algebra, we're going to be going over 2 of the practice problems for the quadratic formula. So I'm going to go ahead here and pull up my whiteboard. All right, so the first practice problem they give us on that Canvas module is x squared plus 3x minus 10 equals 0. And this is a multiple choice question where they give you 4 different possible answers, and each of those answers is 2 values for x. So we know we're going to get 2 answers for x. All right, so here to solve for x, we need to use the quadratic formula, which is what we're learning about this week. And that formula looks kind of long. I promise it's not that bad. It's x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. And don't feel like you have to memorize this formula. A lot of people do. I did when I was in algebra, but you'll always be given it and you can always look it up. So we learn this formula because this is the very last possible way we want to use to solve one of these quadratic equations. Last week, we talked about solving by factoring and solving by square roots, and those methods are definitely quicker, but they don't always work. The nice thing about the quadratic formula is that it will always work. It will always give you your 2 solutions. Now, we are not going to talk about imaginary numbers yet, which is when that square root is negative. So for right now, everything we're going to talk about is 2 real solutions. All right, so in this formula, you can see we have a bunch of A's, B's, and C's. A is here, we've got B here, and we've got 1 C here. And you're probably wondering where those A, B, and C's come from. So that comes from the standard form of the quadratic, the ax squared plus bx plus c equals y. So we're going to be taking that A number, the number that's in front of the x squared, that B number, the number in front of x, and the C number, the number that's by itself, and we're going to put it into the formula. The most important thing to remember before you start this for A is that if there's no number here in front of the x squared, this is the same thing as saying 1x squared, since 1 times anything is itself. Now we have a number for A. A is going to be 1. We have a number for B. It's 3. And we have a number for C, and it's negative 10. If you have a minus sign, you have to make sure to include it or you'll get the wrong answer. So now that we know what A, B, and C are, we're going to go ahead and plug it into the formula. So I get x equals negative b, so negative 3, plus or minus, I'm going to go ahead and make a big fraction, big square root sign. Then I have b squared. I'm just going to put the number in right now. I'm not going to square it. So 3 squared, and then bring over that minus 4, times our A number 1, times our C number negative 10, all over 2 times the A number of 1. So in this step, I just put the numbers into the formula. I didn't do any math. Now for the math part, we're going to start by simplifying what's under this square root sign. So I'm going to leave that negative 3 plus or minus the same. Here, 3 squared, remember that means 3 times 3, so that would be 9. I can use the calculator to solve this next part. I'm going to be doing negative 4 times positive 1, which is negative 4, and then that times negative 10, which is positive 40. So plus 40, and then that's all going to be over 2. 2 times 1 is 2. I'm going to erase this here to give us a little bit more room. All right, so from this step, we're going to add what's in that radical. We're going to add the 40 plus the 9. So negative 3 stays the same, plus or minus. 40 plus 9 gives us 49, all over 2. All right, so we're about to take the square root of this 49 right here. Very important to remember, the square root always gives you the positive answer and the negative answer. And that's where that plus minus sign comes from. And we've talked about this a few times. When you do a square root on the calculator, it's only going to give you the positive answer. So here the square root of 49 is 7 and negative 7. but it's only going to show you +7. You need to make sure that you're using that plus minus sign to have both answers. All right, so -3 plus or minus, we just said the square root of 49 is 7, and then that's all going to be over 2. From this step, we're going to break up that plus minus sign into 2 equations. We're going to break it up into one that has the plus sign, so -3 plus 7 over 2. And we're going to break it up into the one that has the minus sign, so -3 minus 7 over 2. And then we're going to solve both of these equations, and that'll give us our 2 answers for x. So on the top here, -3 plus 7 would be +4. And +4 divided by 2 is 2. So that's our first answer for x. And then we do the same thing on the bottom, but with the minus sign. -3 minus 7 is -10. -10 divided by 2 is -5. So those would be our answers. Usually we list the smaller one first, so -5 is going to go first, and then we'll have 2. All right, so that's how you solve question number 1. I'm going to go over to how to solve question number 4, which is the last question, and then I expect you to be completing 2 and 3, hopefully by this afternoon, if you're following my suggested weekly schedule. All right, so we're going to pull up a new board here. And question number 4 gives us the equation 2x squared plus 2x equals 12. Now, it's very important to note that when we use the quadratic formula, this needs to be equal to 0 first. We want to have our quadratic on one side of the equation, and we want to equal to 0. So to make 12 into 0, we're going to subtract 12 from both sides. So we're moving the 12 over to the other side. And then we're just going to bring everything down here. So we're going to have 2x squared plus 2x minus 12. Just like I said in the last problem, our a, b, and c are those 3 numbers in the equation. So our a here is +2. Our b is also +2. And our c value is -12. All right, before we put it into the equation, I'm going to go ahead and copy down the formula first. Again, that's -b plus or minus that big square root sign, b squared minus 4 times a times c, all over 2 times a. All right, so just like the last problem, I'm going to put those numbers into the equation. So I'm going to have -b, so -2, plus or minus big square root sign, 2 squared, minus 4, times our a number, which is 2, times our c number, which is -12, all over, that's bad fraction sign, all over 2 times our a number, which is 2. All right, so once we put in those numbers, just like last time, we're going to start simplifying. So I get -2 plus or minus my square root sign. 2 squared means 2 times 2, so that's 4. And then I have -4 times 2, which is -8, times -12, which is +96. So plus 96. Again, you can plug that into the calculator. There is a Desmos calculator linked into the announcement section of our course page, or you can just Google a calculator and use it that way. Make sure that you're putting the negative with both the 4 and the 12 so that you get a positive final answer. All right, and then it's going to be over 2 times 2, which is 4. A terrible 4. Okay, now we're going to simplify this part under that radical. So again, we have -2 plus or minus. 4 plus 96 is 100. And that's still going to be over 4. Then we're going to actually do that square root. The square root of 100 is 10 and -10. Since 10 times 10 is 100, and -10 times -10 is also 100. And that whole thing's going to be over 4. All right, now that we have this step where we have our regular numbers and the plus minus sign, we're going to break up that plus minus sign into one equation with a plus sign. So -2 plus 10 over 4, and one equation with a minus sign, -2 minus 10 over 4. And then we're going to solve those 2 equations for our x values. Here, -2 plus 10 is +8 over 4. So 8 divided by 4 is 2. That's our first answer for x. Here, -2 minus 10 is -12. And -12 divided by 4 is -3. For question number 4, it asks you to list your answers in order from greatest to smallest. Here it already is that way. Since 2 is bigger than -3, we would have x equals 2, and then x equals -3 in that answer box. All right, if you still have questions about the quadratic formula, please come to the Zoom sessions today, Thursday, or Friday. For Thursday and Friday, we're going to start talking about the discriminant. So that's what's under the square root sign. And then I'll give a little bit of practice and extra help for the quiz that's coming up. You can also email me if you have any questions. And have a great day.